All right, dramatic countdown over. Durga Suresh Menon, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lucas.
It is my absolute pleasure. Probably about an hour of us already talking so far. Leading up to our conversation here, but to kind of lay the groundwork or the strategic vision for this podcast here today, just tell me a little bit about your new role at your school. Tell me little bit about your school and kind of how you came to be in this role with your school.
Yes, it's such a pleasure to always talk about NIA. I'm just 3 weeks into my new headship here at New England Innovation Academy. I come from a career in higher education. And so I was at university, I was a professor, and then became a dean. And then now here as head of school, I'm able to see, I feel like I've got the whole spectrum. Whereas when you're in college, you look at higher education to secondary education as a pipeline. And now I feel that I'm on the other side of the pipeline. I was in higher education and now in secondary education. And here at New England Innovation Academy, we are 6 through 12. So
Okay.
perfectly in that middle school, high school area right now. And the reason I'm here also because I'm from the area. I'm here. I've been Boston resident for the past 25 years, so I know the area. And the reason I'm here is this is a school like no other. And I say that with a pause because the school is 4 years old. We are just beginning our 5th year in August. And that is an unheard of thing, as we've discussed before. And I'm sure
Yeah.
with lots of guests that you had before, when you think about schools, it's always like a young school is like 50 years old.
Yeah.
Whereas,
We only had
whereas
nine
here,
principals. Like,
yeah, right. You're like, I am the 12th principal here, so I am the second
yeah,
here at
wow.
NIA. So it's a very exciting opportunity. It's a very exciting place. And when they came to me with it, what stands out? Like, how is it different from
Mhm.
any other independent school?
Especially if you don't mind me just stopping you there. Like you were a dean at a university, so that's obviously like I don't want to say that's very like comfortable, but that's a very like anyone who kind of goes into higher education, that's kind of what you see as if you're going to work up the kind of climb the ladder, if you will. That's where you want to end up going. So I guess I continue on, but I'm just wondering like what makes you want to go, you know what? I want to completely kind of get out of higher education, go back to secondary. You don't have to share, but I'm wondering if there a souring moment and you were kind of looking at other opportunities, or was this just like, you know what, I'm ready for a change and let's just kind of go here and see what happens.
That's a great question. I try not to talk about it because whenever people ask me that question, I say, I was not
Yes.
looking for secondary education. So
Yeah.
this was not something I was looking for. I was going to stay in higher education. I was looking in higher education.
Mhm.
When this opportunity was presented to me, what excited me about this place is that it was like no other. So why would you
Yeah.
switch out of a
Yeah.
path that you were going in? For me, was has been the very big question. Did you
Mhm.
want to move into secondary education? No, that was not the plan. And I
Yeah.
think when your plans go sometimes awry is when you
Yeah.
find the best thing. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
exactly what New England Innovation Academy is for me.
Yeah. And so could you go a little bit into what is it that struck you as different initially? And I guess like how has that acknowledgement of that difference kind of evolved for you as you started working with the academy?
That's a great question again, because as I've said it many times before, including in my interview, I remember saying you started an independent school in Massachusetts,
Mhm.
the most saturated independent school market. I always say probably in the world.
Mhm.
So you cannot survive in a market like this unless there is something different about you. And I think that was the first catch. Yeah, full disclosure, my child goes to another independent school in the area, to an elementary
Yeah.
school. And so I am an independent school parent, right? Independent schools
Yeah.
are not new to me. So I understand how they work. And so that was the first question I asked. But then they put innovation in the title, right? You
Mhm.
you can't put innovation in your title and not be innovative. And so I think that definitely piqued my interest and that brought me in. We're 4 years old. We have
Mhm.
the most state of art facilities,
Mhm.
classrooms, labs, our makerspace, we call it the hive. We have spaces that don't have to be one thing, but can be 20 different things. So in everything that New England Innovation Academy does, there is innovation, right? So, for example, our spaces are innovative. Let me give you an example. The way we are innovative is it's flexible. So, it can act as a theater, it can act as a nightclub, it can act
Okay.
as a gathering space for morning assembly. And when I say nightclub, everybody, disclaimer, we kind of mimic the nightclub dance. Like, so we can have a party there. The kids can come and throw a dance party there. We can run an entire seminar space out of there. Right? We can convert it into, we have actually seats that go in different sizes to create a gallery effect in that space.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's 20 different things we can do in that space. So we did that intentionally. We didn't say this space will be, because that's what sometimes education becomes, right?
Yeah.
A equal to B, or A will do this and B will do that.
Yeah.
I had a great meeting with my chef today, and I have to tell
Yeah.
you, our food is innovative.
Especially
We
having a
have-
school with a chef to start off is pretty. I can't imagine that. But anyway, go on.
I always love to give out a big shout out to Chef Mike, because I will tell you that there is so much intentionality, innovation, and flexibility and adaptability into every meal that is prepared. As somebody who has just eaten Korean tacos with kimchi fried rice for lunch today, I am not complaining. So I think
Yeah.
that intentionality. So NIA is all about innovation in everything that we do. The way we teach, the way we grade. I'm hoping that we'll get a chance to talk about the assessments that we do here. The way we look at our teachers, right? The teachers that come and teach here. In every single way, we provide that innovative element and that entrepreneurial mindset, right? And when I talk about the mindsets, I'm talking about teaching students how to fail forward, right? That growth mindset. Hey, if it didn't work the first time, let us make the adjustments and then realign. Right? And that needs to be taught in 6th grade, because by the time the students come into higher education, we try to tell them that you can be an entrepreneur. They can't see it. That mindset needs to be inculcated when you are much younger. And again, I'll talk about that pipeline. You can't wait until college to teach these things.
Yeah. So that's actually an excellent segue, because I'm just wondering too, because like I went into university to start. So I just graduated high school in 2015. So I'm not too, it's actually 10 years ago is when I graduated. And so I went into university, and it was kind of like, it almost seemed like it was the beginning of the end of the, like it seemed like even like my year and people younger were like they didn't seem quite as prepared for university. And that's something I've seen, like even Jonathan Haidt talking a lot about, like the decline of the university was like 2014, 15, and started going down. I hope I didn't cause that directly. Maybe I did, but who knows? But I'm just kind of wondering, like, what did you, because I can only imagine that someone with your background can be enticed by a secondary school opportunity by seeing things that are missing in university students that you were teaching. And I think some of the, I guess, just general criticism that I've heard of people making against like today's university student is usually just like a lack of actually wanting to work hard or like taking accountability. So is this something you were seeing? Like, what is it that I guess you want, like you would never want a university professor to say about a student from your school? Like, what is that kind of like nipping it in the bud for you, for these students to try to prepare them? And I know we've talked a little bit about not wanting to look at high school as just being the conduit to university, but actually trying to make it its own kind of piece of significance. But I guess, what are your thoughts there?
I think you said something that definitely is very true, that around 2015, people started studying it on a very regular basis. There was research being done in university about the preparedness of students coming into college. Now, bear in mind, this is 5 years before COVID, because there's a lot of talk today about COVID and what COVID did to students. But we were looking at this way before COVID. Why are the students not coming prepared? What are they not prepared for? right?
Yeah.
That was another question that we needed answered. It was, is it math skills? Is it science skills? Is it just the lack of persistence? And I will be honest with you, I cannot blame the student. I cannot in good conscience. I think as dean, as a head of school, I think our job is to prepare the students, right? Or if the students are not prepared, to provide the scaffolds that are necessary. So in college, we talk a lot about scaffolding, right? The students can come from anywhere because, again, we are the United States of America, which means that students come from all over the world to study at university. So we provide scaffolds. But then I'll stop and I'll say, you asked a very right question. Is it student accountability? No. There is a small part of it. I don't completely say, oh, the student is not responsible at all. There is a small part of it. But there is a lack of preparedness, right? And that's when in university we started saying we need to go back in the pipeline to see where are those holes. So, and the other thing that I should stop and say it, and I'm sure you saw this in colleges, if you usually failed in your first semester, the chance of completing college falls by like 50+%. It's much higher than that, right? If you fail that first semester, it's very hard to come back.
Yeah.
So what can you do? So the students need to come into college prepared. So I would say that excites me about this job is that is my job now, right? I have to now prepare the students, and that gap that we talk about between high school and college, we need to reduce that gap. How do we prepare them? So where NIA stands out is it is not just about college preparedness, right? It's not about, we are starting to tell our students that is not the only way, right? There are other careers. The reason is also just this graduating class in 2025, I think about 10%, 15%, we had a very small graduating class, 15% of the students, they had internships in 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade.
Yep.
These kids were asked to come and start working when they were 16, 17, and 18 years old.
Yep.
Right? So they're already told that there are other paths. So that's number one, right? That college is not the be all and end all. Do most of the students go to college? Absolutely. Do we consider ourselves as a college preparatory school? Yes. But and we prepare them for other careers as well. And it's not just about the math and science preparedness. It is about telling our students where they can find resources, self-advocacy, right? That those elements are, people call them soft skills, Lucas. I call them as life skills.
They're just skills,
right?
Like there should be,
It should, and schools are not. They're starting to pay importance to it, but NIA is built on it. We are built on that the students will have that innovative spirit. They will be having that entrepreneurial spirit, and they won't make things just for the sake of making things or for entertainment, but that they would make things that are useful. Right? And I think that's how the school stands out to be like really a beacon of change in a market where traditionality is still revered. Right? Not just by the students, by the parents, by colleges, right? You hear an institution is 300 years old. You got that, right? But where is the innovation is my question.
Yeah, it's like sometimes maybe 300 years old is too old and you should move on from it. But no, I'm just kidding. To all the older universities out there. But it almost seems like what you're saying is, especially at age 16, 17, and 18, like you're trying to kind of already make them adults. I mean, maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. Like you're trying to show them that there's capacity for greater responsibility earlier in their educational life, because I think that's kind of, you know what, you'll show up, you might make some mistakes, but you're going to do your exams and we're going to push you off to university when you're 18. That's kind of, honestly, I don't know, even myself teaching grade 11 and 12, how many times I heard it was just like, let's just get them to graduation. Like it was like graduation was this be all end all. And I think when you tried to remove that like finish line idea from what to do with them, because I think everyone, like we almost get blinded by that target. Like I think everyone kind of gets into like, you know, okay, there's graduation is the only thing. Then they graduate and then it's like, okay, a week later it's July and they're like, okay, well now what? Like they have no idea what to actually do. And I'm just laughing too while you were talking there because something kind of came back to me when I was in My dad had cancer in high school. It was a whole thing, so I didn't really do that great. So I had to upgrade some courses after. And in my like senior level English class, I had a 95. Like I was doing really good. My first year of university, my first university paper, I was like, oh man, I killed it. It was like US history. Like it was on like Reconstruction. And I got my mark back. It was a 52. I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, something is clearly not. And that was your point about failing earlier in university, because I was kind of like a steady climb all the way up to like a pretty solid GPA at the end of it. But yeah, and then so basically what I'm kind of gathering is like from your school, there's substance to saying we are literally innovative in name, and like everything is kind of going to be dismissed beyond that. So my question, because we wouldn't necessarily need to get into like some teacher education philosophy here, but I'm just wondering, like, for myself, let's just say I do my 4-year education program at like insert state college or university here, and you go through, and realistically for me, the education degree was kind of has a narrative of kind of being obsolete in terms of like you don't learn too much other than the practical part of it, and that's kind of with anything. And so if you kind of did your like, you know what, you can show up every day, you can use Magic School AI to help you make a few lesson plans, and you can kind of get some worksheets, and here's your curriculum. Like what would be like the culture shock of walking into your school as an educator? Like what do you kind of expect the educators to do to prepare for engaging in your class, in your school?
Open-mindedness. It's very, very simple. You have to have an inquisitive spirit. And when you come and meet, so we call our students innovators. So when you, nobody else outside understands when we call them innovators, but we call our students innovators, right?
Yeah.
When you come and meet our innovators, right, you understand that this is not the run-of-the-mill student that has been asked to sit down, shut up, and learn.
Yeah.
That's not our student, right? Our student is not a typical student that doesn't raise their hand and ask questions, or they call our teachers by first names here. We have taken the.
I've heard that's pretty common too in a lot of like alternative settings, which I don't see an issue with, but.
I come from university. It is not common, sir. So I came in and I was like, excuse me, what? And so, but it makes a difference. It makes a difference in building that trust, the relationship, and a culture of collaboration. I think that is the word I want to use, right? The students feel like the teachers are their partners. They don't question, they trust them that they are here to educate them. And at NIA especially, so we had a superstar. We have hired her. I can't wait. She's going to be on one of your podcasts very soon, talking about what is Innovation Studio, how does NIA do innovation. She's going to be talking about that. And I had interviewed her, and I was not able to interview her during the day because I had not yet started. So I interviewed her in the evening after she was done at NIA. And so I was like a 6:30 call, and I asked her, so how did your day go? Like, how did it? And she at Innovation Studio with the 7th and 8th graders. That's who showed up that day for the interview. And she said, you know, Durga, I had come prepared. I gathered all my friends this past weekend, and I asked them all to come home. I gave them good tacos to eat, and I told them, hey, I'm going for this interview at New England Innovation Academy. This is what I'm going to do, right? And it was about something about sharks and studying sharks. And okay, she had it all figured out.
Yeah.
Her friends came up with solutions. She had prepared really thoughtful answers on how she would collaborate with the students. She came. She did the experiment here. The students talked about implanting a chip in the sharks. Oh, no, it was actually about counting fish. It was something so bizarre. And the students had thought nothing about this. And she was like, I thought I came prepared. But I didn't understand how 7th graders and 8th, because they're not restricted, right? They're not boggled down by the traditional thinking or even safety, right? Because you learn to think without the box. Like stop putting... And she said, I cannot tell you how excited I am. She said, I hope I get the job. But if I don't get the job, I had the best interview I have had in this cycle. And it became about the student, right? And I was like, oh my God, That's what we are about.
So is that, you don't mind me asking, her interview or this person's interview was like they spent a day there and then they got
Yeah.
interviewed?
They come and spend the whole day with us. So
Interesting.
they come, they meet. So they meet with different constituencies. Like they meet all the stakeholders. So they will meet all faculty, like faculty who are not in their area. They will meet with the upper school director, the middle school. So if you're a middle school teacher, you meet the upper school director to talk about the pathway to upper school. If you are an upper school teacher, you meet with the middle school to understand who comes into upper school, right? So it is that beauty of understanding how the lines are created. And then they meet with their faculty. So whatever department they're going into. So for example, if you're a math teacher, you meet with the math faculty. If you're a science teacher, you meet with the science faculty. So you meet with faculty in groups. And then you meet with students in two different ways. You meet them for lunch and then you meet them in a classroom.
Okay, cool.
So yeah,
I like
the interview
that.
process. And again, that's also something very different in the sense of we will not hire teachers in the summer unless we are extremely desperate. Even then, we try to get a Zoom call with the students and the students will jump on the Zoom call to meet them.
Yeah.
But that becomes a very important part of hiring teachers.
Well, because if you want, like, what would be the, I did look through your staff section yesterday, but like, is it like 30 teachers?
Yeah.
There's like a,
Oh,
okay.
the
something
whole
along those
academic
lines?
unit is, and everybody teaches. All our administrators teach in the program. There's nobody who's not teaching except for the learning engagement, which is more a support role for the teaching side. Everybody teaches. All directors teach. Our head of teaching and learning teaches. Everybody teaches.
That's a good way to do it, because I think it's easy to, I don't think it's easy to become complacent, but it's very easy to forget, like, kind of what it's like to be in the everyday rhythm of it there.
Yeah.
And so, I had a question about that. The interview. Oh, so even for the interview part, I'm also wondering, when you had to interview for this role, because I think we always have, like, for example, when I was interviewed at my new district, like my old district was very like product focused. There was almost no like day-to-day data collection for the most part. Like we had our standardized exams that the students had to write at the end of their courses. So for social studies, I had like and so this kind of innovation thing, that this like philosophy is very like literally foreign to me, because like the way that I was educated to teach was, I guess, in service of how to help students like master these two types of assessments in the course I was teaching, or the subject I was teaching. So yeah, a couple threads there, but I want to ask, what was your interview like for this position? And are there any questions that you still like think about? Because for me, it was like, how do you use data to inform your instruction? And to me, I was kind of like, okay, we would get our diploma results back, but like it was always very, like we pretty much had our information on student learning after the student was done the course. You know what I mean? So it almost wasn't necessarily in service of the ongoing instruction. Like we could obviously use it to be like, oh, maybe I didn't teach these concepts the best way, or I could revisit that, etc. But for me, that's the question that still kind of haunts me, because I remember in the moment being like I didn't know that there was more of like a holistic, ongoing assessment structure in my new district. I just wasn't aware of that like philosophy difference. So I guess, what do you have a question that you still think about from the time that you interviewed for this position?
So I am head of school, right? So my interview was 1.5 days.
Okay.
So it starts the previous day when the senior leadership team with the board, the board chair took me out to dinner. That was an interview. They can say that they took me out for a very nice steak dinner, but it was an interview. I think when you come in as head of school, or when you go with the principal, right? I'm assuming you call them principals, right? The head of schools are principals, headmasters, superintendent. You know, when you call any of these things. What you're looking for is somebody who is not made up their mind. Because if they've already made up their mind, then they have nothing to learn. And I have had this experience where people will come and be like, one of my favorite aha or moments was when I was the dean. We had a candidate come in.
Or aha moments. I like that.
A candidate come in, and somebody asked a very pointed question to, how would you see us grow, right? And this person said, oh, you know what your school needs? A nursing program. And we were an institute of technology.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? And it was not an aha moment. It was the other kind of moment.
Yeah.
So I think I remember moments like that. So when I came to NIA, the one thing that I was very clear, and I am still, right? I mean, I've just finished 3 weeks on the job. I don't have all the answers. I don't have everything figured out, because there cannot be an I to move this academy forward. What we need is us coming together, and then I help lead the effort to move us forward.
Yep.
So I think in my interview, there were very pointed questions. How many students do you think we should have in the next 3 to 5 years? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I would say, how many students would you like to have in 3 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
How would you change the math offerings at NIA? How would you like me to change the math offerings? Because again, this becomes a very stakeholder question, right?
Yeah.
I'm an Asian. I want all the math and I want all the science, but I also want my child to be curious. I want my child to be kind. Right. And so I think it is the balance that we talk about, that there is, like, I always look at NIA and I say, we have a liberal arts education here because our mindset that we are trying to develop is the entrepreneurial mindset and the human-centered design mindset. And every time we say human-centered design, for some reason, people think design, you're talking about design. No. It is about putting a person in the middle of decision making. Right? Whether you're creating a product, whether you're building a building, whether you're offering a course, whether you're creating a meal, why are we doing it? Who are we doing it in service of? And I think that is the marks of a truly liberal arts education. And I think that's what NIA offers. And I think that came out even on the interview day. And I remember that. I was like, oh, so it's very student-centered.
Yes. And so I'm even wondering too, so we can kind of get into this humanities lane a little bit here, because I would say, how would you define, like, I think when you start getting into humanities at the high school level, like, it's still okay, like the students are under 18, like, what are the subjects that you don't touch? Like, what are the ones that are potentially too politically charged? Like, that's where my mind goes of, like, personally, if you're students that were 16, 17, and 18, like, we would do controversial issues projects that were like 3 to 5 days, and they were in projects. And like, I would do this big project where they had to fully articulate the argument of both sides of a very controversial issue, and they didn't know which side they were presenting on until the day of. Like, I had to flip a coin, and then they found out. So it didn't matter to me, like, which one that you particularly wanted to argue for. Like, if you want to discuss, again, like going into like abortion or like private prisons, like anything like that, that's literally some of the most like politically charged material, but then let's do it. Like, that's fine, but like, let's actually try to explore the topic and like the terrain of debate rather than just like have a politically charged discussion. So is that like what your kind of vision of like a liberal arts education is? It's just like the challenging of like our preconceived notions and ideas. Like, what is it at an institution like yourself that innovation says to me, like something that's like changing, but when you say true liberal arts education, that almost tells me that, oh, there's something from like the past that needs to be included. You know, kind of know what I'm saying there?
I think that's important, Lucas. No, I think somebody said, oh, so you're not traditional at all. You're not a traditional school. I'm like, we are innovative. So when you say that you're not traditional at all, do we still prepare our students to go to college? Do majority of our students go to college? Let's put it down. Yes, they do. This past year, a lot of our students became engineers Mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer engineering, civil engineers. They went and became engineers. So do we create engineers? Sure. Are we a STEM school? Sure. Are we a
Yep.
STEAM school? Sure. But we are what a student wants us to be, because it's not just about what we put out there, it's what the students get out of what is put out there. And I think teaching the students, helping the students, asking the right questions of the students so they can figure it out is the innovation of the traditional model that we do, right? So if you ask me, Durga, do you discuss controversial topics? Yes. Do you still read all the literature that a student should know? Yes. Do we give them a choice? Yes. Do we provide flexibility of opinion and thought and argument? Do we have a debate club? Yes. So I feel that the answer is never a but, it's all an and. Yes, and we have this. So I think again, we are not pigeonholing ourselves into either the traditional model or the non-traditional model. It is an innovative model. And we were talking about it, and we were talking about this word rigor, because everybody wants rigor in their curriculum. And I'm like, do we have rigor? And my head of teaching and learning said, oh, we have vigor. And I said, what is the difference? And he said, rigor is traditional, Durga. Vigor is innovative. Right? And what we strive for is academic excellence, right? We want our students to be academically excellent. And the reason we, instead of saying rigor or anything else, we say excellence. And excellence basically is a more holistic word. It is not like rigor, like we are going to cause you stress and discomfort. No, we are actually making learning fun.
And so question there, because I would say even in my first 5 years of teaching here, one of the main, I guess, shifts is the student-centered learning kind of approach. And that's kind of the main idea, I guess, in Canada anyway. And usually that would come down to the students kind of taking some initiative themselves, and it's the teacher as guide philosophy, not like the teacher that just stands at the front and kind of gives the information. So is there any thought so for example, my old school, one of the rules before I was there was the first week there is no content taught. It was for relationships only. You're using that time to kind of get to know your students. The first day is probably might not be the best thing, but I brought my Nintendo Switch in and I played Mario Kart with my students on the first day. This is a high senior level university stream course, and but they all came in. I was like, screw it, we're gonna play Mario Kart today. We're just gonna hang out. Might not be the best. I jokingly said it's the only day that they're allowed to swear in class is because we're playing Mario Kart. But so when the red shell hits them, no, I'm just kidding. No swears were flying, just turtle shells. But my question, I guess, is the philosophy instilled where you're trying to start the year by injecting some student curiosity into changing the curriculum as the year moves on? Or is it a bit more traditional in the sense of this teacher kind of starts it and the students kind of take it from there? You know what I mean? Kind of who has the more control at the beginning to kind of see where it goes? If I'm a teacher, do I plan my semester or do I not?
Yeah. I think the teaching staff, they come together, and between the director of the middle school, the director of the upper school, the head of teaching and learning engagement, they meet almost every day.
Yeah.
They almost meet every day. It's a huddle, right? And our 9th and 12th graders go off to camp and for the first 4 days of school.
Oh.
And that's team building.
Cool. That's sweet.
So they're gone. They go to a place, they're gone for 4 days. And the 12th graders actually go and do their own separate thing, and the 9th graders all together, and they go with their advocates. That's something else that's very different here, Lucas, in NIA. We don't have advisory, we don't have advisors, we have advocates. So it is a student advocate. So we call them as partners with the student for success in every aspect of not just NIA, but for life. Right? So the students and the advocates go off, 9th and 12th graders go off to camp. And then the people who are here on campus, the first week is called orientation week.
Okay.
And something that our college counseling office does is, instead of talking about college counseling, we start talking in ninth grade about career counseling. Like, what is beyond? What is 10 years from now? What is 20 years from now? What
Like
makes
almost
you
like a
happy? And I think,
self-authoring or something. Yeah.
and no, because it's asking the right, we've read 1,000 books about the importance of asking questions, right?
Yep.
We have taken that philosophy very strongly, and that's what we do here, right? Let's ask the right questions at every single class, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. So Nia has, I don't know if you see our logo is a pin. So
Okay.
our thing is find your pin. You'll always hear us say that. And that's the PIN, right? Passion with purpose, create something that will be impactful. And the N stands for next, whatever is next. So we ask them through the 7 years of school here, we ask them, what is next? What is next? Right? And we help them define what is next. So we help them find their purpose. Once they're able to find their purpose, and we don't say when you come into NIA, you better have a purpose. No. We'll help you find your purpose. Yeah. What makes you happy? What are you good at? What do you think you're good at, right? And that helps them formulate. And I won't give away all of my director of middle school and director of upper school slides, but every step of the way, it's guiding questions to move the student through that journey from 6th grade to 12th grade. And if you come somewhere in between, of course, there are students who are going to stay with us from 6th to 12th, but if you come in between, we are able to tell you, hey, let me tell you, let's say somebody joins in 7th grade. We say, hey, this is the question we asked in 6th grade, and here is where some of them are at. But you can think of question number 6th grade, and then you can bring it up to 7th grade, and we'll help you do that.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel that
No, go ahead.
No, I was saying that in advocacy and in our learning engagement, those are the questions that are very personal, Lucas, so that we can help the student move through the journey.
Yeah. And that's wonderful, because even that was kind of the reframe where, like, even in Alberta, where I taught social studies before in my grade 12 class, it was, you were given your curriculum. There was like 4 essential questions that you were kind of given, and like that was kind of each unit. It was the essential question, and like they were pretty much, it was, instead of giving like the outcomes for the students to reach, it was like questions for them to consider, and that kind of went in line with the textbook, etc. So what kind of my job was, so for example, was like creating through line questions for your course. So I remember like grade 12 in Alberta was about like ideology, so like communism, capitalism, Marxism, all those things. And then nothing was said about freedom. So one of the questions that we had was like, how has our relationship with freedom changed over time? So we talk about like, what does it mean to be in relationship with like an idea? And it brings much richer conversation than just like, oh, in 1914, World War I started because like Archduke Franz Ferdinand, you know what I mean? Like there's so much more to like this, like the depth of the conversation that comes from the content rather than just like delivering the content, which I'm grasping is kind of what your goal is with these kind of collaborative meetings and something along those lines. So I do think that there's more room for that. And that's not exclusive to social studies. Like I think that can be something that comes into math and science and those subjects as well. So I'm seeing the vision. I'm loving the path that NIA is trying to put their students on, of like not trying to make school this sort of confined experience, and one that kind of adapts to the student learning goals and I guess passions. But obviously there needs to be some sort of uniformity when it comes to the assessment and that kind of lane as well. So one of the things that I've noticed in Canada, again, speaking very, not generally, but Alberta, for example, has very intense grade 12 end of high school exams. Now, like sometimes they're worth as much as 30 to 50% of a student's final grade. And now it's traditional grade scales. And so it becomes a very intense exam. There's a part A and B for most of them. But the only reason I'm even bringing this up is because, like, if you had me or any other teacher in my building for social studies 30-1, for the grade 12, like university stream course, whether or not you got a 60 or 50 in my class and an 80 in someone else's, it would all kind of come out in the water after, because you would see how they scored on the same exam we were preparing them for. And that kind of came like the standard objective metric for students applying for universities. So I guess I'm wondering, and then now it's been said because of the intense standardization of assessment in Alberta that was one of the provinces that universities kind of preferred to take students from, because there was less of a chance for teacher bias in assessment. Now, obviously, every teacher tries to not be like, oh, if you get in my class, you'll get a 95. Like, that's not what everyone's trying to do. Like, you're trying to have some sort of like discrimination in what it means to be like the satisfactory and the proficient and excellent. But for other provinces in Canada, there's little to no standardized assessment in grade 12. Like, I think in New Brunswick, it's arguably non-existent. Now we do have some IB programs, so that's a little bit more of the international standard. But all that is to say is, like, even for me, like when I think about coming up with a cool project idea for my class, the first thing that, like, I almost don't want to think about the assessment part, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like, I think about the idea and I'm like no, let's do this controversial issues project and let's look at this subject and like I'll help you with resources for this one, and then like you're kind of just buying into it versus okay, now how do I know if you get a 65 or if you get a 75 or an 83, or what's the difference between an 83 and an 87? So if you don't mind me asking, like, what is the expectation for like department assessment and like this, or what are your goals with assessment, to kind of keeping that in mind?
I like that our head of teaching and learning has, he says, what works for us and what works for our students is what our assessment system is based on, and that it is not a traditional model. It is actually, we call it a mashup. So we took elements of competency-based assessments, mastery-based assessments, and traditional assessment methods. We mushed them up, and we have created a model that works for our innovators. And it is innovative in the aspect of we are actually seeing how our students are learning. And that kind of, I think, I learn, I model, I create, all the different elements of different competency-based models we have created. You could do an entire podcast with my head of teaching and learning on just the way we grade. Right? And our transcript is something I've never seen before, because as soon as you see a transcript, you will immediately understand how our students study. And then you know that this kind of a student can learn anything because of the way we have set things up. And again, it's a very growth mindset based model, as in, if you fail, how do you learn from it? And then every single teaching staff at NIA uses the exact same standards of grading. So it never so happens that in math, you are a this, and in something else you are a that, and then there's no correlation. No, you use the same. And this also helps the parents understand how the students are studying and learning and being assessed. So it takes a little bit of an education. I am not going to try to explain the nitty-gritties of it to you.
Yeah.
You have to. We actually, the one thing that we've started doing, Lucas, is we've started inviting teachers and administrators from across the country. New Brunswick is welcome to NIA. To come and see what we do. And if there is something that we can help you with, we'll just give you everything that we've got. We don't have any kind of proprietary. We will not share it. We are so open. A couple of months ago, public school system from Iowa had come to NIA to learn about how we do our assessments, and they would like to learn from us. And we just gave them everything. We were like, here it is. Please go use it. Tell us how it works and how can we help.
That's beautiful.
And we are definitely looking, as we grow a little bit more in the summers, we want to do faculty professional development here to talk about all the different ways you can actually not just summatively grade, but really think about grading differently.
Yeah, because I almost get the impression that, so for example, like my new district, it's all about kind of holistic data tracking throughout the year, and it's not necessarily like one of the kind of beefs that I had with the old system I was a part of. It's like, okay, if a student gets a 60 on this essay in September, then they get a 90 on that essay in December, well, well, now they're a 75 student. And I was like, well, like if they've actually proven that they've learned, like why are we kind of still punishing them for what happened before? And that's
Punishing,
kind of what
yeah.
has changed. Yeah, so it's like the ongoing kind of formative assessment is kind of the I think one of the lanes that is changing for sure. So just have a few more questions left for you before we kind of wrap up for today. And so if a public school teacher like myself was to spend like one full month in your school, this is what I'm curious, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit because like what would they kind of be most shocked by? Like if I walked in on like your average Wednesday afternoon, like what would I in my normal school you'd see kids that are kind of falling asleep a little bit, and like they might have their computers open and there might be some kids playing games here and there and what have you. What would they be most surprised to see, do you think?
A lot, because this happened in the one day I was here. In the one day I was able to see this. We don't segregate by grade unless they are in the class learning. So all school lunches, everybody comes and eats together. So an 8th grader will be best friends with 11th or 12th grader. And when we said goodbye to the 12th grade, the amount of 7th and 8th graders crying, I was like, wait, what? It's something very different for me. Because when I was a 7th grader, I did not know anybody past 8th grade.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? I also grew up in India.
Ninth graders were like
story.
adults, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like you didn't talk, and they didn't talk to you. Forget you wanting to talk to them. They didn't talk to you. At NIA, there are businesses that are run from here because we have entrepreneurs as well. That is run by partnership between 8th graders and 11th graders.
Oh, wow.
And then when they graduate, they sell their business to a 7th grader so that the business continues. We have 5 businesses that I run from here in school.
Okay, well, that's actually one of the...
It just blows my mind, right?
Yeah, so, for example, my school here in St. John, I was not part of this program. It was one of the teachers took on like a power play program, and essentially it was like a couple months where a group of students that were interested would go into trying to figure out like they're going to do like a business fair. And so a few of them kind of like made fidgets and sold them. So that was like, it was all about them trying to create a product to sell to their fellow students. And that was kind of the core purpose of that course. Now I've even seen in looking on your with your program, like entrepreneurship teachers, like that's something I only know of like social math, science, or whatever. But like an entrepreneurship teacher, like I just thought for if something happened, they were like, oh, Lucas, for my school this year, they're like, we want you to be the entrepreneurship teacher this year. I'd be like, what? What does that even mean? So I guess like, what are some things that you would kind of ask someone? And I don't mean to go like in an interview sense here, but like, what are some of the things that you would expect differently from someone in an entrepreneurship type role? And like, what does that actually mean for the purposes of your school?
It means that you understand that entrepreneurship does not always mean just starting a business. Okay. I think entrepreneurship is the biggest mindset thing that I think about is failure is just the beginning. Okay. That if something does not work, it is not the end point. It is actually the big starting point to what you want to do next. Mm-hmm. And I think if we can teach that mindset in our students, the sky is the limit. If that is the one change that we can affect.
So what are some of the businesses that you've seen with your school? That's what I'm curious about. Like,
so we have the ones that are making money right now because they're all over the internet, and one business is all over the world right now, at least in 4 different countries. We have pop soaps. So the students started a soap business, and for some reason, 4 years in, they're still doing very well.
Okay.
So we have pop soaps, and then we have the new one that started last year and 2 years ago, and it has really taken off. Is we had a group of 11th graders put together a business called Next Gen CEOs. Right?
Oh,
how do we take this entrepreneurial mindset and pass it down? First year, they did it by themselves. They formed a group. They went to local area high schools and they said, do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to create an entrepreneurial mindset? And they did a small conference of 50 students here on campus. They came and asked us for money. We said, hey,
Yeah.
if you're an entrepreneur, shouldn't you go get a sponsor? They got one sponsor who gave them
Okay.
$1,000 and they ran a conference with it.
What? Okay, that's
Second
awesome.
second year, they said, who else is interested? They spoke to a school in Spain. They spoke to 2 schools in Costa Rica. The Costa Rican school says, do you want to host the conference here? And they were like, yeah, we'll host the conference there. So they hosted the conference here in April and took the conference with them to Costa Rica and launched a conference. Here they did it with 113 people. And in Costa Rica, they went and educated 500 students that you could be next gen CEOs. The students graduated in May. They have sold the business. They didn't sell the business. They said instead of selling the business, they are going to take next gen CEOs to college. So the 3 top people, they are going to University of Southern California. Where is Owen going? And Minerva, and they're going to all these amazing schools all over the country. One of them is actually a Posse scholar. You know, that 1% of people who become Posse scholars in the United States. He's one of a Posse scholar. And instead of selling it, they're taking it to them to college, and they've created branches of them. So they've created franchises. So there's a franchise at NIA. There's a franchise in UWC in Costa Rica. And now they're going to do a conference where they're going to try to grow it every year. And it's going to go from 6th grade all the way into college.
Wow. Okay, and that strikes me as 2 things. Obviously innovative with the one kind of ethos of your school, and also that kids in high school are capable of so much more than just preparing for college.
Yep.
Last segment of the podcast here, Durga, as I know you're a very busy woman right now preparing for this school year coming up for your new role. There's 2 quotes that I always end off the show with, and they're a bit more open-ended, so kind of respond as you'd like. So the first one, and I don't put them on the document just so you don't hear them until I say them. So the first one is, don't let school get in the way of your education. So I look at someone like yourself and I just think someone who's been very successful in their chosen domains. And I guess, like, what do you think has helped you become successful that you do not think you would have necessarily learned in a classroom specifically?
The never stop learning part. And I think that's what your quote says. Don't let school, like, there's not a set way. Don't put yourself in the box. And I think that's what has helped me always remember that there's always something more to learn.
Yep.
And I don't think I'll ever be done.
Beautiful. And I think, I mean, that makes life kind of boring. I feel like if that's kind of the philosophy that you have, if you don't have that philosophy, I mean, so. And the last one is, education is what remains once one forgets everything that they learned in school. So my follow-up question is, what is it that you want people to take away from their time with you specifically that they won't get anywhere else?
Oh, with me specifically?
Yeah.
Never stop being curious.
Okay. Beautiful.
Always be curious.
Durga Suresh Menon. Thank you so much. Menon, sorry. Thank you so much for coming on today. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you so much, Lucas. It was my absolute pleasure as well.